One of my favorite creators on Instagram, she posted something, I think last week or a couple days ago, and it said something like, sometimes you shouldn't think about things too much, otherwise it stops you from doing it. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and start, not knowing where whatever you're doing will lead you. And that struck a chord with me, because that's how I got into this. That's how I got into photography. That's how I got into writing. That's how I found a lot of my passions. And a lot of the time, thinking stops me from doing. And I can tell you that I regret a lot of the times that I spent more time thinking than doing, right? My mind gets in the way of a lot of things, and I didn't want to let this idea slip. So one of my closer friends, Dallas, told me that I should potentially start up a podcast. And I was like, that's something I've always been interested in, but I've always been too scared. I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. I don't know if this is how you do podcasting. I don't know how you host a podcast, but I figured, what's the worst that can happen? Other than me just not doing it and not knowing where this could lead me. And right now in my life, a lot of changes are happening, and it would be really nice to just have a place to vent, have a place to talk. I've had the idea to talk about this for about a day or two, and I figured these two ideas kind of work together, right? The idea that I had to talk about something, and the idea of having a podcast or something like that, whatever this will be. Maybe this is just a vlog. I don't know. I don't know how you segue into things, so I'll tell you what I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you're familiar with Hamlet, but in the book, someone's going to kill me for that. In the play, there's a character named Polonius, and he says this line that's always stuck with me since I read it a couple months ago, really. In my freshman year of college, I took a Shakespeare class, and so we read Hamlet. And I remember this distinctly. I remember like folding the page or trying to remember it, and I think I even highlighted it because I'd seen the quote before, but I never knew where it was from. And within the context of the book, I was like, the context of the play, it really, and I think just with the changes I was going through then, transitioning from high school to college, which I'm still trying to figure out, but back then I was lost, still trying to figure it out, big time. And the quote was, "To thine own self be true." And it sticks with me more because I also went to see the play Something Rotten, which is an amazing play. Those songs are amazing. It's extremely funny. It's really charming. And if you ever have an opportunity, you should really see it. Or, I mean, even just go on YouTube or something. I'm pretty sure there's a movie version of it or something. What does that have to do with my life presently? A lot, surprisingly. So I have this little office space downstairs. It's not a really big room, but it's where I keep my camera equipment. It's where I keep my Pokemon cards. It's where I keep a lot of knickknacks, and it's where it's my safe space, and it's my creative space. And when I came back home from winter break after first semester last year, I just finished up my Shakespeare class, and my sister handed me a small whiteboard that she got from like the dollar store, and I think I was listening to the Something Rotten soundtrack, and I wrote down that Polonius quote. I was like, "To thine own self be true," in true nerd fashion, or I don't know what I was doing, but I'm really glad I did. And I tacked it on the wall, and every time I felt down, I'd look at it and I was like, yeah. But, it was just like a yeah type of thing. But I don't know, I think Shakespeare's ghost kind of came to me at a time of need. I was feeling really down earlier today. And a couple days ago, that whiteboard fell off my wall. It stayed up there. Like, that tack that I used has stayed there for upwards of 3 months. And 2 days ago, it just decided to fall. And I was like, whatever. So I picked it up, and I haven't put it back on the wall yet, but I was feeling really down, and I went down into the office space, and I sat there, and I just was kind of thinking about everything. And I looked over at it because I remembered it, and those words just like right here, they hit like home. Yeah, just recently, I don't know if I said it already, but going through some changes in my life, and I think those words couldn't have come at any better time. All right. Our little talk was disrupted, so sorry for that cut. I was hoping to kind of just have this be like a long form thing and not have to cut anything too much. But yeah, I want to talk about what the quote, "to thine own self" means in two contexts, or two perspectives that I have. Perspective one is as a creative, or whatever you want to call me, photographer, writer, whatever, person who complains on the internet. That's me. And two, from the perspective of a human being just like you. So I'll start with the arguably least interesting of the two perspectives. As a creative, being true to yourself is so important, as anything you do, really. Being true to yourself as a creative, or as a writer, as something like that, or as a photographer, is extremely important, because for me, when I first started all of this, when I started writing, when I started really picking up photography with like a really crappy camera, I would sink hours into it. I would stay up super late, just playing with lights and trying to get really cool shots. And there was a time when I even like painted and drew, and I would stay up for hours doing that. And when it comes to writing, I would get writing assignments in school, and I would stay up for hours and get them done a week early because I was passionate and I was being true to myself. I had a certain style, and I did it. I didn't care what anyone else said. I didn't care about what people thought, because I think that's the luxury you have as someone who's just doing it for fun. Like, you don't give a damn what the dude 30,000 miles away on the internet thinks. But when I started uploading my stuff to different platforms, and most notably Instagram, which is probably what most of you guys know me from, things kind of changed, to be honest with you. In the beginning, it was really exciting. I was still experimenting a lot. I was still, being true to myself. But after a while, I think certain criticism kicked in that I heard from people with my photography. I guess even the way the platform works, Instagram and Facebook, just certain things didn't get much traction. Certain photos weren't really doing as well as I thought they would. I thought I thought certain photos were really cool, but people disagreed. And I think to some degree that changed the way I approached my passions. I remember there was a point where I just uploaded whatever I wanted. And then because I heard a bunch of people saying that there's better ways to do it, or what I was doing wasn't as interesting, or because certain things weren't doing as well as I would have liked them to, I started doing like the grid thing. I started uploading in sets of 3. I started even kind of trying to emulate the things I saw other people do on Instagram and Facebook and all these different places on the internet. It wasn't so much for me as it was to please the people I wanted to be friends with, the people I wanted to get comments from and get their likes from and get them to like my photo, you know? And when you're not true to yourself and you do that, you stop having fun. I stopped having fun. It wasn't until I met certain people and going out to shoot with them that I remembered what it was all for, what I started photography for, and what I liked doing photography for. And sometimes I am not true to myself anymore when it comes to photography. Sometimes I lose it. But people always seem to remind me of the fact that with any creative endeavor, you just have to do it because you want to. Sometimes when I'm not uploading to Instagram, it's because I don't want to. I used to make excuses every time. I used to be like, I'm sorry, guys, for being away. Then I realized, like, why do I need to apologize? I'm just not feeling it. And I don't think any artist needs to apologize for not feeling it. You know? I think we all have momentary lapses, just with anything where we're just not into it anymore. But thankfully, it's always come back to me. And people have a lot to do with that. Going out to shoot with friends and things like that. It's always brought me back. And it always reminds me. Being true to myself as an artist means that I make my work for me, and I make work that makes me happy. And of course it gets hard now that I'm trying to turn this thing into kind of a small business and, doing event photography, shooting weddings, portraits. But if it really is your passion, you can still stay true to yourself. How do you shoot those weddings? How do you shoot those portraits? You imbue your identity into them, and you take breaks when you need to. You understand that you're not a machine. You can't just pump out all these photographs, and people can't just expect you to post super cool stuff all the time. And you can't expect that from yourself. I can't expect that from myself. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's a relatively obvious thing for to thine own self be true. But the one I really wanted to talk about, and the one that might bring me some peace to talk about, is as a human being, what does to thine own self be true mean to me? To me, to thine own self be true is just a reminder that you get one shot at this life, and at the end of the day, you have to live with your decisions. I have to live with my decisions. And would I rather live a life that pleases everyone while all the while I'm sad? Or would I rather be myself, maybe piss off a few people, maybe have people criticize me? Would I take that, but at the end of the day be happy with the life I lived? I'm guilty of trying to please everyone. My mom one of the things that she's always told me is you can't please everyone, you can't make everyone happy. And boy, that sucks. That really does suck, given my personality. I want everyone to be happy in my life. And that's probably one of the reasons people aren't happy all the time. When you try too hard, you forget who you are. And you forget that the reason why people are in your life, the reason why people gravitate toward you is because they want the person you are when no one else is around. And I forget that sometimes. I spent the better part of the last few months, few years even, I tried changing myself under the pretense that I was becoming a better person, that I was being a better friend. But I neglected the relationships that I think mattered the most. And I wasn't true to myself. If I were true to myself, I wouldn't spend so much time thinking. I'd spend my time doing what I'm doing now, just giving it a shot and seeing where it goes, right? And I can tell you, from personal experience, very personal experience, that being true to yourself is probably both the hardest thing you can do in this world. But it's also the most fulfilling because it's so difficult, right? People want you for who you are. This world may not like who you are, but you have to be 100% you, regardless of what anyone says. Because at the end of the day, what do they mean? What does the dude 30,000 miles away on the internet mean to you at the end of your life? Nothing. I think we owe it to ourselves to try our best to be who we are. I owe it to myself to be Brian, not freshman Brian, not Brian the freshman, not all these other weird names that I've given myself over the years, but just to be Brian. Not the artist, not the poet who romanticizes everything, not that guy. I owe it to myself and to the people around me, to the people who love me, to the people who call me friend. I owe it to them to be myself. And I think you owe it to yourself to be you as well. Tough times teach you beautiful things. And I'm figuring this whole life thing out, you know? I'm waddling through it like a penguin. I can't really fly, but I can still get to where I need to go. It doesn't matter how fast I get there, as long as in the end I did it my way. And if I can smile at the end of all that, if I can smile at the end of this life, I am happy, you know? Because how often do people in life get to say that they lived the life that they wanted to live? You know? How many people, have no regrets? I don't think anyone lives without regrets. I have plenty of them. And a lot of them stem from not being me, not being true to who I am. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to call this. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is the start of a podcast. I don't know if this is the start of a vlog. I don't know if this is just the start of me talking in front of a camera. But whatever it is, I'd like to hear what you think. What does "to thine own self be true" mean to you? Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's make something out of this. Let's try to find the light in the dark. Oh God, no. That's so cliche. How about we try to find the goodness in a bad situation? That's still really cliche. I don't know. But I don't know if you made it this far. It's like, what is this? 20-something minutes? Without cuts, of course. Thank you. I'd really love to hear from you. And yeah. Let me know if you want more. But I'm going to be true to myself. And if you say you don't want more and I want to make more, I'm going to make more. But yeah. Seriously, though, thank you for listening. And I challenge you. Take a leap of faith. Try something. You have an idea, just do it. Want to do something but have always been scared to? Do you have the means? Do it. All right. I've always been so terrible at goodbyes. So